touch surfaces that may be contaminated. Practice physical distancing at the workplace by having virtual meetings or conference calls, or communicate via email. Meet at your desk instead of in the cafeteria. You can even work from home. We must each do our part to stop the spread of COVID-19.
This message brought to you by Bahamas Ministry of Health in conjunction with Guardian Radio.
Wake up, stay home, go to bed, repeat. Wake up, stay home, go to bed, repeat. Does COVID-19 have your routine a little humdrum? Well, since you're home, now's the time to spice up your routine. Wake up, say your prayers, make the bed. Yes, use the decorative pillows. Bathe, use that fragrant soap. Eat. Now's the time to make meal surprise for your family. Exercise 2 times around the house. Lift those cans, feel the burn. Blast that music and dance. Home gym. Clean, dust, wipe, sweep, vacuum, mop. Is that lavender I smell? Organize. You know that mystery drawer? Find out what's in there. And those sheets and towels, fold them. Do you really need to keep that shirt from high school in the closet? DIY. You bought all the materials months ago, so now it's time to fix that leak, paint the cabinet. Your family's gonna love the new table you built. So what if it's a little low? You made it. Work. Well, you still have to get some work in there. It's part of the routine, but at least you can work from home in your pajamas. You might want to change when you have those video calls, but that's up to you. While COVID-19, we are keeping our routines and enjoying our homes.
This message brought to you by Bahamas Ministry of Health in conjunction with Guardian Radio.
When caring for persons 60 years and older, the caregiver should take extra precautions in order to keep the older person safe. This involves wearing personal protective equipment, or PPE, such as face masks, gloves, and gowns. These measures reduce the risk of transmission of COVID-19 between the caregiver and the patient. Proper application and removal of your PPE is also important to reduce the transfer of this virus. Wear new PPE with each patient. Make sure that you wash your hands with soap and water before and after attending to each patient and between each task. Protect older persons and protect yourself.
This message brought to you by Bahamas Ministry of Health in conjunction with Guardian Radio.
Wake up. Weekday mornings, join us for the show that's shaking up Bahamian radio. Morning Blend with Dwight Strong.
I must say, you all have raised the level of talk shows.
I think you have the best show that's going on right now for young people.
And I just want to tell you guys you're doing a great job.
For national and international news and entertainment, talk and analysis.
I'm impressed with the type of show that you're running.
With different perspectives from what you may be used to.
This station has really, I think gotten the country to really start thinking about things and stop looking at things from, just from politicians' promises.
Morning Blend with Dwight Strong, weekday mornings from 6 to 9 on Guardian Radio 96.9.
When are you guys going to be online? Because by the time I find myself just in my car, just holding on to every last word. I don't have a radio in the office, so if I listen to you, I have to listen to you online.
We're online, GuardianTalkRadio.com.
Wake up. It's a new day.
96.9 FM, Guardian Radio. Howard Grant sitting in your company.
Good morning, Bahamas. Dazzy the Demi here.
Rush hour. We're pushing past those superficial, mundane conversations by reaching the thought-pattern, essence, and character of our collective leadership.
We cannot solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we would have used when we created them.
Rush hour.
Tune into Rush Hour every weekday at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. here on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM.
This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own.
Good afternoon, Bahamas, and welcome to the Hit Back. I'm your host, Nahaja Black. It is a beautiful day here in the 242. I hope that everybody's doing well. As you can tell, I am having a rough day today. I'm a bit late. I'm a bit tired. And we're going to have a great show for you today. I've got a great lineup of guests that are going to be joining me today, so I'm excited about that. Also, there's quite a bit of things in the news, so I want to welcome everyone who's watching via Facebook, who's watching online through YouTube as well, and to everyone who is listening, as usual, here on the show live with Guardian. So I hope that everybody's doing well that way today. Okay, so I've got a great show for us today. We're talking sustainable development. That's a big topic for me because, of course, if you've been following, if you haven't been following, then you missed an interesting topic today on the that's going on, right? An interesting conversation that's going on, and it has a lot to do with the ships and them mooring and the throwing anchor, right? So their anchor being an issue underground, right? And so we're having that challenge there. So we have ships that are doing their own thing and they're destroying the reefs. So that's going to be one of the major conversation today, and that topic will be discussed with Captain Glen Bain and Eric Carey, Bahamas National Trust Executive Director. So we have that going on today. But before we get started, there's a few things that I'm happy to discuss apart from that. I want to start off the show with this thought here. So here's this thought that's come to me. In one of the headlines on one of the dailies is talking about how Ponzi schemes are making a killing, right? How Ponzi schemes are making a killing in the country, and that folks are just winning. Hashtag winning, and not in those who started are winning, and Bahamians are falling prey to this. I have a question for you. Why does it seem so easy for us to fall prey to Ponzi schemes? To fall prey to, any and every tactic possible to give away our money. Okay, guys, this is where I am challenged, right? Where I'm challenged is, how is it that we keep falling for the same thing over and over again, right? How is it that Ponzi scams, the loom, ASUs are a real thing. I like ASUs. ASUs are a real thing. But how is it that you have all of these other initiatives that we keep falling prey to? Like, no joke. It makes no sense to me why we keep falling prey to the same things over and over and over again. And I wonder if it is because we have no idea how to create wealth, right? That we haven't been taught or trained on how to create wealth. There's a interesting thing that's going on now. Businesses are kind of requiring and asking and saying, listen, Bahamians, we need you to support us. We need Bahamians because we've lost revenue. We need Bahamians to come and support our businesses. And there are two answers or two responses I give to that. One, you're right. I hope and I pray that Bahamian businesses are doing what they can to help, and support our local businesses. However, there's another challenge that I have. The other challenge that I have is that, are the businesses actually shifting? Are businesses actually doing what's necessary to be different, right? Are we doing what's necessary to be competitive, to be compelling? You can't expect for people to show up to your business just because you're open. This whole thing, if you build it, they will come. That rhetoric, that's not real life. That's not how business is done. Just because you are open doesn't mean that people owe you their money. Money is tight. And so it brings to me the question of, do we know how to create businesses? Are we truly entrepreneurs, or are we like one rich, or we are lucky in a lot of ways and we don't know how to recreate wealth? So we keep trying these old, tired, proven to be non-profitable works, right? During this pandemic, you should see the amount of times I've been approached to be involved in certain things, right? Some of them are viable to a degree, but most I can't understand. And it's okay. Look, for some it works. I got actually, and it depends on where you are in the pyramid scheme. I think we all know that. It depends on where you are. And those who know how to work it are successful. It isn't as if there are unsuccessful people. Those who know how to work it are successful, but most of us don't know how to work this thing. So how can we be successful? Also, Be mindful of the loom, the thing that makes you believe that you can do nothing and get money. Look, even the farmer knows that in order to get the tree, find me the easiest plant. Give me the perennials that once you plant them, they keep growing. They go through their season, but they come back again. Find me any farmer who tells you that if you don't sow something, that you will still reap. Nah, it doesn't work that way. There's things that you have to do, and the sowing doesn't mean just your money, man. Don't go into a business unless it already exists, unless it is verified, it is someplace that is monitored. Don't go into a business and give your money unless you are a silent investor with returns guaranteed and binding by law. That's it. Those are the ways you do it. And even then, it's risky business. Even if you buy stocks and shares, it's risky business. Someone is managing your fund, and you've put in your cash in that person's hands to trust. But when you're talking about things where there is nothing else but your money, and they tell you, well, it could sit and it'll grow cap. Is it a bank? No. Is it an investment in terms of a hedge fund, stock, mutual? What is it? How is it growing? Where is it growing? Is it legitimate? You know what I mean? That's the sort of things that we need to be having. I want us to know. I understand. I always tell people I understand why people play numbers. I understand why folks play numbers. The number business is a wonderful business on the end for the business owner. The business owner literally has to sell no product. They have an interface, a software. You walk in with hope and walk out with a receipt, right? That's the business model. They have nothing on the shelf for you, right? You get your house right. You get like 900 houses, and you have to choose the house, and it's the biggest gamble of all, right? But if you put in $1 and you win, you get 200 and something more dollars, I think, if you box it. And if it's straight, then it's a lot more money. If you get that one dream right, man, if you get that dream right and you really put some dollars into it, or if you get somebody's birthday, by the way, it's always someone's birthday. Why don't we just keep playing a birthday every day? I never understood that. It's always somebody's birthday. So why you need to know if it's my birthday? I guess because you know me as my lucky day. I don't understand, but to each his own. And I always say, well, my father was a big time number playing fella. At least he ended up with a few apartments, so he didn't spend it all in the wrong place. Shout out, Daddy. How you doing? Anyways, I understand why people play numbers, because if you put in $1, you could get 200 and something. And it feels like the quickest fix, right? The people will see real money if they win. If you are a winner who's figured out the code, if you figured out math and you've learned the system of math and it's no longer random, you'll find that the houses will block you. They will stop you from buying because the house always wins. It never loses. When the house starts to lose too consistently, you become the loser. But see, these are the things that we base our economy or our hopes on because we don't have the tools and we don't know how to create wealth. That is one of the greatest deficits I think that we have as a growing nation. We have great deficits. One of it is the capacity, the knowledge, the know-how, and the knowing and learning of money. So yes, the Ponzi schemes and the looms will always seem appealing because you don't know enough about money, or we don't know enough about money to ask the questions of how is this possible? So please, y'all, please be careful. Be mindful. If you're a business, adjust. If you are unemployed, let's figure out ways. And this is one of the things that I'm working on, is to find every opportunity where there is money to be made, money to be received, and that we will use that money to start our own business. Something else that happened in the news, so there's a few things, but we can't get to all today. Something else, Barbados is moving in 2021 to become to move away from the crown, to be a purely independent republic. Barbados, Mia Mottley, that female prime minister, continues to lead. And I meant to say female, and I want all of you fellas who can't handle the thought of a female leader to squirm in your seat. I want your belly to shake. I want you to use the bathroom. I want you to cut me off even if you can't handle that this woman is doing things in this region to look good. This woman is stepping out. Shout out to Mia Motley being a leader for the Caribbean, because yes, guess what we did? After Mia Motley dropped that bomb, that smart move, talking about we gonna have the travel permit where people can stay for an hour, not just vacation and play, stay for a year. We bounce up, and the ERC. That's the only thing the ERC has come up with now. By the way, just shout out to the ERC. The ERC has come up with a copy of what Mia Motley has done, and then they said, well, the Bahamas always had that model, but we digress. The Prime Minister of Barbados has issued, with her dame sitting, and the speech from the throne, I guess, I don't know what you call that, stated clearly that by 2021 they will be a republic, an independent nation. Now the question is, what does that mean? And you know what? I'm going to have a show that discusses all of that. What does that mean? What does that look like? I'm looking forward to that. Also, something else that was in the news, major story in the news. The Supreme Court has ruled that the Bank of the Bahamas and the government colluded to mess with Leslie Miller's money. Well, what a time. What a time. What a time. Y'all don't know, but I'm going to tell you, that's a big deal that the Supreme Court has come to that decision. Hear ye this day. How big that deal is for every Bahamian that has ever said that the government has victimized them. That, ladies and gentlemen, is direct evidence that the government uses its resources, our resources. Remember, NIB has bailed Bank of the Bahamas out not once, not twice, but I think 3 times. But yet we as the Bahamian people, still the conch, marching to the slowest conch beach you could possibly find, are standing on lines waiting for $14 checks. Yeah? We are the ones, months later, still trying to get our due. But Leslie, now look, you can decide if Leslie Miller deserved, but the man, that's the man money. If you can't get involved with people money, if that's his money, how in the world does our government and I think, if I remember correctly, and I'll make sure I get the details, but that our government, along with a bank that still only has 2 ATMs, because I know why people always standing on the line. Before COVID, people were standing outside waiting for 1 ATM. Before COVID, this is the craziest thing in the world. But the same bank that cannot stay functional, that stay hiring people, that cannot stand on its own, is working to put assets in resolve in a special purpose vehicle, right? To put those things in resolve, not foreclose on anything, protecting things, but then went ahead and colluded, found that by the Supreme Court colluded with the government to hold Leslie Miller's money hostage. Now the gentleman will be getting millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And we wonder why there's very little progress in these wonderful islands of the Bahamas, because we continue to have systems that are corrupt to the core. If the government has colluded, ladies and gentlemen, who was involved with the corruption? Who was a part of this? I wonder which permanent secretary signed off, because you got some famous permanent secretaries who are always at the scene of the crime, but I digress. Always at the scene of the crime. I think it's going to be a fascinating time in this country. Let's see how this goes, because there's never seemingly anyone who truly pays for these sort of things. We got a good show for you coming up. I'm excited to have Captain Glen Bain and BNT Executive Director Eric Carey. They'll be joining us at the other side of the break. We're talking about sustainable development, protecting our natural resources. You guys know Captain Bain. He was on my show before, Captain Glen Bain. Excellent show that we had talking about the maritime industry. So I'm excited to have him, because there is an issue. We are having an issue. Barbados, every Caribbean island with their cruise ships, people have had this issue. And the question is, are we being proactive and demanding more from these people that are wanting to take advantage of our sun, sand, and sea, but seemingly have no respect for the very thing that they are seeking to use. And then where is our testicular fortitude? Maybe we should move from testicular, because it sure as hell ain't got no fortitude, and move on to something else. Maybe there needs to be a womb. I don't know what's going on with these people. I don't know. I don't know. Season over. I'm done. Hashtag I gee with, just limp wristed leadership with no strength in saying we can work together. You have a desire to be here. We have a mandate to protect our heritage. It is a mandate of the Bahamian people that we keep what we have and we grow from it. Don't let these people drop anchor, ruin our natural resources. Where are the maritime laws? Did we get any money from the dumping of poison and sewage in our waters? Did we? How come there aren't more vested and invested Bahamians in the maritime industry? Who's writing our maritime laws? I also have the BNT executive chairman, the BNT executive director, Eric Carey, who will be joining us. And Eric Carey had some strong words as well with regard to the mooring. The anchoring, a dropping of anchor on our coral reefs. And I love the fact that we have Mr. Carey here, because we're talking not just on this one incident, but overall, the protection, the conservation of our environment, the sustainable development of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We are a part of a hub. Tourism is a part of our identity. It is a part of who we are. Therefore, with all of that said, we have to be far more protective, far more demanding of how we do business here in the Bahamas. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. When we come back, we will have Captain Glen Bain and Eric Carey on the show. We will be back right after this.
"2020 isn't over yet. You still have a chance to turn this year around by signing up for a professional development course at the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute. Learn skills in accounts, plumbing, sewing, marketing, public speaking, basic electrical, and more. For more information, call 502-6339 or visit www.btvi.edu.bs. Come discover the possibilities. Discover BTVI.
Do you dream about never stopping at a gas station again? Would it free your life if you could cut the cost of owning a car by more than half? Well, now is your chance to free yourself from the pump and expensive car maintenance. Easy Car Sales is having a September sales event on all new 100% electric vehicles. From hatchbacks to luxury SUVs, it's everything electric. Visit easy242.com to schedule your personal test drive experience. It's a new day, Bahamas. Drive electric, only at Easy Car Sales.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Really excited to have my guests on the show with me today. Hi, Captain Bain. Eric, how are you guys doing?
Hey, Nahaja. Good to be here with such a legend of the transport industry.
Good afternoon, Nahaja. So good to be with you again. Good afternoon to the people of the Bahamas.
Listen, it's a pleasure to have you gentlemen on. You two are heavyweights, and especially when we're talking about this. Yeah, man.
You don't have to be nasty about it.
Eric, you can take it all. Eric, you can take it all, my friend.
Listen, heavyweights in the discussion, so I'm excited that we are having this discussion together, gentlemen. Listen, let's have this talk. Right now, okay, so one of the things that I learned, one of the classes or one of the courses that I really loved was the discussion of sustainable development in third world countries, right? And the things that are important for countries such as ours to talk about how do we grow, right? However, it is not just a topic of conversation. It is models that are based in, you have the IDB, the IMF, all of these entities, UN, keep talking about small developing nations, right? And I look at a country like ours. Our country is one of the, personally, I believe, and if we were ever to do an accounting of our natural resources, I think we would find it to be so, one of the richest little countries when it comes to natural resources. I think if we think about our location, the depths of our seas, the various wildlife in our fish, in our oceans, the sand. I mean, I think things that we haven't accounted for, gentlemen, that which prove that we have a wealth of resources. So I'm always concerned when I look at our wealth, our resources, and I feel as if persons like you, Eric, know, Captain Bain, you know, but in our policies, it doesn't reflect. So my first question is, today, where are we when we talk about sustainable development? Eric, I'll let you go.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Nahaja. It is indeed really is a pleasure to be on your show. I have followed the show, and I think it is very enlightening. And a lot of people, I think, look to you for your views. So the Bahamas, if we were to compare ourselves with other countries in the region, we have several things going for us. We have one of the most impressive protected area systems in the Caribbean, in the Americas. And we also, as a result, have probably some of the best fisheries in the region because of the fact that we have committed to protecting the natural environment. At the global level, the Bahamas is looked, the Bahamas is looked at as being very progressive. In fact, yesterday there was a report, the Global Biodiversity Outlook 5, which is the fifth report released by the Convention on Biological Diversity. And while there are many concerning trends and we're falling short globally in reaching a lot of sustainable development targets, in a couple of them, one being protected areas, the conservation of protected areas, that is one area where globally, as a planet, where we are making strides. And the Bahamas should be proud because we have achieved more than 10% of our terrestrial area protected. And if the government moves quickly, my good friends, Minister Ferreira and Minister Pintard, they have before them proposals to allow us to protect 20% of our nearshore environment. So we've done a good job as a country. And I'll give Glenn a time to chat, but it's really important that people understand that these protected areas are about people. It's so fishermen can fish, whether commercial fishermen. The Bahamas is one of the few places where you could still go fishing and on the rock. It is still one of the few places where you have good recreation for Bahamians to go out and catch fish recreationally. So I think that we are generally a lot better off than a number of countries in the Americas. Do we have a lot of work to do? Absolutely. But we'll obviously talk a little bit about some of the issues where we need to make where we need to do a better job.
Captain Bain, your thoughts on it. Where do we stand as a nation when it comes to sustainability of our environment?
Thank you very much, Nahaja. I'll piggyback on a lot of what Eric had to say about the protected areas. Being a captain, I would have a lot of opportunities to enter on patrol and even cruise the land and sea path, which is some 40, 50 miles long and 20 miles wide of just sea, a bunch of seas. They got crawfish, they got conchs dying in the land and sea path because it's obviously someplace that replenishes life, sea life. And that's we you go down to Inagua, you get the park with the flamingos, and you see them in the natural habitat. And it's something that we would want to sustain, something that we would want to keep. And we have coral reefs all over the Bahamas. We have private islands, we have keys, and it's just a beautiful thing to see. So, of course, we want to sustain them. And when we're talking about the sea life, we're talking about man-made ships, man-made activities that actually impact what we have. And if we don't be careful, we can really lose it over a period of time. And those to follow will not have the opportunity, the visitors that come to the country just to see these things. We need to sustain these things. And the only way you can do that, like you mentioned earlier, is by putting legislation in place, and not only having the legislation, but having the enforcement.
Yeah.
We need to sustain what we have. We have a lot to offer the world. We have a lot to offer our kids and their kids. So we need to sustain what we have, and at the same time, we want to do the fishing. We want to do the activities, boating activities that share in the environment. But we want to do it in a sustainable way. We want to do it in a friendly way, and we don't want to destroy what we have. So. Without delaying it too much, I want to go into some details, but without delaying it, that is what I would call the way forward in trying to sustain what we have, and many ways we can utilize our resources, our people resources, to actually capture a lot of finance, a lot of work in moving forward in those areas. I mean, besides from just the fishermen and all the rest of that, there's a lot of activities that we can do to actually bring in money, to bring in a revenue stream to the country based on some
on these resources. Yeah. One of those things, and Captain Bain, you and I, we had a great show on that. Just what are the opportunities within the industry? How can Bahamians get more involved, etc.? But before we get to that and talk about progressing and moving forward with development and trying to understand, one of the things that when we talk about sustainable development is, in particular, on the topic of the cruise ships, which we'll be discussing, is that business and growth, business and the environment, human beings on the planet, they tend to come. We work supposed to work together, but we're at odds. The environment was here first. The planet was here first. We came in after. We started slashing and burning. We started doing whatever we needed to do. But progress requires a bit of natural destruction, right? That is human evolution. As we grow, we need space, etc. I had someone call me the other day, Eric and Captain Bain. I had someone call me and said, Nahaja, how are people killing so many trees? And this lady, she felt that, this soul crushing spirit, this feeling of how we are not even considering the trees, and that great old ancient trees that have been here for forever are so flippantly removed to put up a parking lot or to put up a next shopping mall, and we're not considering how nature works with us. So it is that we are growing, and there is some warring with nature as a society grows. When we look at our cruising industry, we know that we are one of the largest cruising and I got Captain Bain and you, Mr. Carey, would both be able to tell me, but I gather that our cruising channels are one of the most highly used in the world, right? So our pathways, our waterways are some of the greatest, has some of the largest traffic in the world. Am I accurate in stating that?
You're most accurate when you're talking about cruise ship, Nahaja. The cruise ships have home ports. The two largest home ports for cruise ships in the world are Port Everglades and the Port of Miami. And as you know, we're just in the back door, their front door. It's hard for them to get around the Bahamas if they're going to the Eastern Caribbean, if they're going to the Bahamas. It's hard for them to get around. So a lot of their ships pass through our waters and come to our islands and whatnot to just get their itineraries out. So we're very, very busy, and we're very, very blessed because, that volume of ships and people coming to us, it has to be a blessing if we harness it properly We want a win-win situation with the cruise line. We don't just want to shove them away. I mean, recently you've been hearing people having, oh no, we don't want them to do this. They don't need to come here if that's the case and this and that. Hey, I agree. Look, we don't want them damaging anything, but there are ways we can harness that relationship so that we can have a win-win where they're not really damaging things, but they're still coming and we can still benefit and gain from it.
Well, let's go there. Let's go to what has been going on since COVID-19 and what has been happening with the cruise ships in the Barry Island. And I'll start with you, Mr. Carey. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Eric Carey, BNT, Bahamas National Trust's Executive Director, along with Captain Glen Bain, noted, renowned captain and maritime specialist here in the Bahamas and around the world. I tell you, he's one of the more brilliant Bahamians. And I'm with two heavyweights here, two very, my just for the record, gentlemen, my prestige has gone up, with you two on the show, and at the same time, my
happy assistance if I can.
Yeah, man. Let's see if it turns into monetary gain, but I feel really special. Eric, let me ask you, what has been going on with the cruise ships in Barry Island? How did we get here? And so that folks can follow the story.
Right. So obviously, as Cap said, there's so many cruise ships that ply this part of the world that when COVID-19 happened and the cruise industry shut down, there is just no, and Cap can confirm this, there just isn't enough dockage for all of the cruise ships, in the port of Miami or whatever. And so they made a determination by whatever means, and I'm not sure how they came to the conclusion that they would anchor in the Barry Islands. And Kazarina McKinney told me she's been tracking this. Kazarina McKinney's executive director of Brief. They've also been anchored in other parts of the Bahamas, etc., obviously with the permission of the government. In talking to people from the downtown downtown development partnership, they were hoping that the cruise ships would have come to port and would have been quarantined and would have been determined to be COVID-free, and then you would have had 8, 9, 10 cruise ships with 120, 130 crew members, which would have then been a part of supporting downtown. But of course, I would assume the government probably felt that might have been quite risky with what was being said about the cruise ships. You would recall the cruise ships had become persona non grata. They were called cesspools of COVID-19. And so the government probably didn't want to risk what the optics of having these cruise ships downtown. But perhaps maybe if we had put them there and quarantined them and made sure that they were then free of COVID-19 after 21 days or a month, then maybe that would have been the better option. But it's hindsight, because putting them out there anchoring these cruise ships have massive anchors the size of vehicles, and when they go on, and also as Captain Bain can attest to, very large and long chains. And so as these boats swing, the chain swings and wherever it impacts the seafloor. And what happened was a local fisherman, as they were diving in one of their favorite places in the Barry Islands, raised his alarm. He sent me these voice notes, and he was just so concerned that he was seeing all of this damage. I sent those voice notes to all of the authorities, both ministers and key people in government, other NGOs, etc. And to the government's credit, I know sometimes we give the government a hard time, but immediately both ministers put together the first mission to go and check out, to try and confirm to investigate what the fisherman was saying. And they did find that there was significant damage. And so where we are is that we know that there is damage. We sent a mission out a couple of days after that as well. A lot of the ships had moved into the sandy areas. So they were actually anchored in sandy areas. So, I guess it starts to inform what we need to be doing about these cruise ships in the Bahamas that don't come to port. And Glenn, I didn't know this, right? But someone posted on Facebook, and you could speak to this, is that a lot of ships actually anchor elsewhere in the Bahamas as they're waiting to get into other ports or into Freeport, etc.
Oh, wow.
So those types of things need to be, we need to come up with very clear policies that determine where a ship could anchor, or should they, if like for the private cruise islands, Kazarina again has seen the damage of these boats on these private cruise islands. Maybe they need a big, huge mooring, Glen, like what we have in Nixuma Park. So that you don't impact the sea floor. Instead, you pick up a really big mooring, and every time you're going to be anchored in this, you're going to be moored in the same place every time your ship comes, a couple of times a week for those who don't have berths, and you can eliminate this repeated. And it keeps being staggered around a particular area. So yes, considerable damage has been documented in the Berry Islands from the cruise ships.
Let me ask this question before you jump in, Captain Bain. You say considerable, so we don't have any idea of the. When considerable, is that a measurement? Do we have any sort of measurement?
No.
Any square footage, miles? Any?
No. So what
we don't have that yet.
What the two missions were designed to do is really very quick presence absence of the damage. So that has been documented. There is the damage. What we are recommending, and I spoke with a government official today, is that we put together a comprehensive mission that will include, obviously, people from the government, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, divers, the new Department of Environment and Planning, and you include some of the NGOs and some of the scientists. So you put together a 1 week or 10-day mission, and you get a lot of people in the water, and that's where you start to quantify the damage, because we need to quantify the damage. Because the next question is going to be, what do we do about it? But we need to know what the extent of the damage has been, and you can only do that with a comprehensive study. We have the ability to do that. I mean, we have expert divers on our team and other NGOs and in the scientific community. And you also have people in the government sector who also have the ability to participate in these types of assessments. So you do this full, comprehensive assessment, then we can say, this is the damage, and then the government has to decide what it does with that.
Captain Bain, I'm someone asked a question here. So basically, we are a doormat. Are we seriously joking? I think about this, Cap, and I'm looking at listening. My frustration level is high because I think we know how long it takes for coral reefs to grow, and to lose them, you're losing a lot more than just the reef, but all of the life, the wildlife that's with that reef, all of the fishing beds that we have. This is not a small deal. How many ships do you know, Captain Bain? Were you told about how many ships were out there?
Nahaja, I was told that the Bahamas have kind of authorized somewhere in the area of 28 cruise ships to be able to anchor in the Bahamas. Not at one time. Okay. But they gave authorization. And you got to remember, there are two things. First of all, most of those, the Bahamas is number one in the world with cruise ships registered under our flag. We have more cruise ships under the Bahamas flag than any other country in the world. That's the first thing. That's neither here nor there with the Carey and the Bain in the Bahamas and all the rest of that, because they're worldwide. But when we talk about cruise ships being accommodated or facilitated, as Eric indicated, we have the port of Nassau, but the size the cruise ships are today, we can only hold up to 6 at a time in Nassau Harbor. Mm-hmm. 6 cruise ships is a significant amount. I mean, we had to extend the harbor in order to do that. Otherwise, we probably would only be able to hold 4. But holding 6 ships in Nassau Harbor for however long is obviously going to be kind of costly to cruise ships. I mean, I'm not so concerned about cruise ships spending money, but we also got to bear in mind that the cruise ship hasn't made a dime since March. I mean, they, they have the expenses, they haven't been making any money. Now, dropping anchor, not only cruise ships, like you mentioned earlier, we got tankers that from the time in the mid 80s, early 80s, when I was in the Defense Force, we had to navigate our way between tankers when we get off Great Isaacs. They just sitting there waiting to go into Borco or wherever they're going. They're waiting for instructions. But we used to have like 5 or 6 on any given day, tankers anchored just north of Great Isaacs. We have Half Moon Key. Half Moon Key used to be Little San Salvador. Every day there are cruise ships anchored there because the cruise ships own the key and that's where they go to do what they do. There's no moorings. We have anchorage again off Great Stirrup Key. We used to have anchorage off Coco Key with cruise ships, but now they built a dock. I don't know if they had a chance to really utilize that dock as yet. Obviously, it was a good investment for them, but they're not cruising right now. They built a dock so that they can, instead of dropping anchor and having to tender passengers in and out, they can go straight in. Cruise ships rather go straight in. No cruise ships would rather be on anchor. Now, can we harness this arrangement? Can we make it less damaging or mitigate the damage that you have to the reef? Eric mentioned earlier, you can have mooring buoys. We have mooring buoys at Clifton Pier where the small tankers come in. Some of them can't dock, so they have to moor between buoys. We have mooring buoy. We have some smaller mooring buoys in the Land and Sea Park, in the Keys in Abaco. You go in Hope Town and some of those keys, they're loaded with buoys. We don't have hardly any buoys in Nassau Harbor, but we used to have a buoy there when the Seaboard Marine was the Seaboard Spirit was in operation. They had a buoy they would have to tie to and bring their stern to the dock. So those buoys would make it unnecessary for anchors to grapple the seabed. Now the buoys will have a tackle where they will be secured to the seabed. And those tackles wouldn't be dragging anything, nothing would be moving. So once the ship moors its rope to whether it's a toe slip, whatever kind of slip they have on top of the buoy, you wouldn't have any more damage. You wouldn't have any.
Let me ask you something, Cap. So what you're saying is that with these buoys that are well, we call those moorings, the buoys and okay.
Yes.
And you said that they have something to the bottom that keeps the anchors in place, or somehow, how are the anchors kept in place?
Sometimes they use up to 4 anchors. Sometimes they use a very heavy slab of concrete that they prefab and take out there. I understand that they have techniques now where they can actually drill 50 feet into the seabed, and they can drop the weight and just pack it so that it can hold up to whatever weight they need to hold. These cruise ships are huge. These cruise ships have a lot of freeboard, but whatever is required can be done so that it's not necessary for them to actually drop the anchors. Because the anchor, like Eric said earlier, have a road. I mean, they have a long cable. Ships quite technically should use 4 times the length of cable. They would go 4 times the depth of the water. If the water is 50 feet, they would go 4 times that length of cable plus another 90 meters.
Oh, wow. So really?
Yeah, because they have to turn, the wind shift them, they move with the wind. And as they move, the cable is very heavy. Sometimes, actually, the cable holds the ship. If the wind is not strong enough, the ship is not holding on to the anchor. The cable is heavy enough to actually hold the ship. And if the wind picks up, the cable stretches out and it actually moves. Most times it drags, and of course it would be damaging the seaboard. But why can't we get a Bahamian company or put together so where moorings can be made available to these cruise ships, and we can have a no anchorage policy for cruise ships in the Bahamas. In fact,
no anchorage policy.
Definitely, I agree with you, Cap.
Policy in Florida already. They cannot anchor off the coast of Florida.
But yet so a part of one of the arguments, or one of the arguments presented today, if you're just tuning in, Captain Glen Bain, BNT Executive Director Eric Carey on the show with us, is that the cruise industry is a part of us.
They are vital to our economy. However, and so therefore, with that in mind, we try our best to make to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Where we try to give them, accommodations. That's it, right? We try to accommodate them, right? However, it's to our peril because we don't have a plan on where we can set the proper guidelines and rules so that they can abide by them. Do you believe that there is any challenge with cruise companies abiding by these rules if we were to set them up?
I am sure that the cruise ships don't want to damage the seas either. The cruise ships make money from the sea, they have tours doing diving and all the rest of it. I am sure that if you put provisions in place, just like they have provisions, like I say, in Florida, they're not allowed to anchor at all. They don't even give them moorings. You put in place where you tell them this mooring will be available for you whenever you bring that. When they come to Nassau, they come into the harbor and they come to the dock, they have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to sorry, Glenn.
Go ahead, Mr. Carey.
It comes down to enforcement, right? So I think if you enforce the regulations, the cruise ships and other boaters will abide by them, because enforcement means that you are at risk if you don't abide by the rules of facing significant penalties. We saw there are a lot of cruise ships that have done a lot of good things. So people talk about cruise ships, and if you don't like cruise ships, you don't like cruise ships. And I don't try to convince people who don't like cruise ships to like cruise ships. If you hate them, you hate them. They shouldn't be here, blah, 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 etc. But again, a lot of Bahamians accept that they are an important part of our economy. A lot of Bahamians depend on them. And you can't just take an element like that out of your economy overnight and be able to not have significant economic shocks. But they have tried to do things like, if you go on the cruise ships, they recycle a lot of their, all of the waste is now recycled and carefully packaged, etc. But we know through what we had with the dumping incidents that sometimes they do go a little wayward, and they will dump if no one is out there watching them. So we need to make sure that we have good enforcement, because if you don't, you could have rogues who may do what has happened in the past, where they abuse the regulations. So yes, tighten the regulations and make sure that we have good enforcement. The one good thing we have now is that Minister Ferreira pushed through some really progressive legislation at the end of 2019, which resulted in the creation of the Department of Environment and Planning. And in fact, today, so there were some regulations which he tabled in the House. It's a very powerful department. Rochelle Newbold, who is the director of that department, is a fearless Bahamian guardian of our environment. And Oh yeah, Rochelle don't play, and I can guarantee you that
I need to have her on the show then.
Oh, she would be, but she's a public servant now, so I don't know if she would.
Oh, they snatched her up.
She now heads up the Department of Environment and Planning. She's very knowledgeable, and she now has good, powerful legislation, inclusive of, massive fines, major fines that you can do for developers and cruise ships and all sorts of things. So I think we're in a better place to deal with the incidents that may have happened in the past couple of weeks, couple of months, to be able to make a determination as to how we can hold people accountable.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, my question is, though, now how do we make them accountable? Are we just going to tell them, we saw you, we see you, you're a bad guy, but I guess because we need your business, you can stay, or what are we doing? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Eric Carey, BNT Executive Director, and of course, the world-renowned Captain Glen Bain. You see how I did that? You saw. You're listening to the Hit Back. We'll be back right after this.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
You're listening to the Guardian News Network. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Taylor Ferguson. Here's what's making news. Thank you so much for tuning in. A Free National Movement Member of Parliament and independent MP slamming government's decision to move ahead with today's House sitting, charging it seems government isn't following the rules. Pine Ridge MP Frederick McAlpine says government should have led by example and shut down Parliament.
We have to follow the rules. We don't appear to be following the rules based on what's taking place in Parliament today. Parliament should have found another way to make it. Basically, you shut down businesses. And Parliament perhaps should have been shut down. I recognize that the opposition is not attending Parliament today. Parliament should have been shut down. I know that it's been sanitized, but it should have been shut down. We should follow. We should lead by example.
An employee of the House of Assembly tested positive for COVID-19 this week. House Speaker Halson Moultrie said the employee came into contact with all MPs and staff who were present when the House met on September 9th. Vaughn Miller, who quit the FNM last year, found the decision to hold a House sitting today disappointing.
Expected, anticipated that we would not have met today. But my understanding is that the proceedings are ongoing. For me personally, I took the Speaker's advice that we should go and get tested.
A man was killed on First Street last night. According to police, the victim was shot in front of his home around 8 o'clock. Family members tell our news team the victim is 26-year-old Shermal Ferguson. His neighbor heard the gunshots.
I was sitting where I am right now, and the vehicle with jet ski stopped because they had some problem with the trailer wheel. And the next thing you know, you hear all these shots going off and flashing of lights. And in the commotion, when I walked to the side of the road, I saw the gentleman bleeding. So obviously he was shot. And then people came on the street. It maybe wasn't even 2 minutes before all this commotion started.
Residents in Abaco firing back at National Security Minister Marvin Dames following his comments about crime on the island. Dames' comments also not sitting well with Director of the Abaco Chamber of Commerce, Krista Albury. She asserts, despite his visit, nothing has changed on the island.
Every night before and after the minister's arrival, there has been a reported crime in Abaco when it comes to housebreaking or burglarizing of businesses. This has not slowed down. They have not shown any fear towards the police or defense force over here, let alone any respect for their presence. We need both agencies to step up and to show Abaco that they are here to actually protect us and to help us in our rebuilding efforts.
That's what's making news. I'm Taylor Ferguson. AP News is coming up next.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
Coronavirus update. I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. The government has a plan to make vaccines for the coronavirus available at no charge, assuming a safe and effective shot is developed. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Dr. Robert Redfield says such a vaccine might be found by the end of the year, but not readily available until next summer.
I think we're probably looking at late second quarter, third quarter, 2021.
White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany was asked if the administration wants herd immunity, mentioned by President Trump during his town hall last night in Philadelphia.
Herd immunity has never been a strategy here at the White House. The president last night was noting herd immunity is over a period of time, a country, a society can reach herd immunity. It's a fact. It was not a strategy ever presented here at the White House.
All students at the University of Colorado ordered to self-quarantine for the next 2 weeks to stem an alarming rise in cases. I'm Tim McGuire.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Eric Carey, BNT, Executive Director, and of course, Captain Glen Bain. Cap, it's good to have you on the show. Same thing with Mr. Carey. I don't know where my, okay, there he is. He's back. All right, everyone. Don't forget, you can follow us. We are live every day here on Guardian 96.9 FM and streaming live every day on Facebook and YouTube. One of the benefits of COVID, it has made us everybody a little bit more tech savvy. And therefore, the show comes to you even bigger and better than normal. Okay. So we're talking about, okay, someone said, Nahaja, why are we talking about this? And one of the reasons why, I don't know if you guys, I'm a huge proponent for our natural resources. I believe that for too long, the value of it has been not been shared. The value of it, not just in the monetary sense, which is a huge one, right? Which is a huge issue, but also how we relate with the world and our environment. How does our Bahamas, our 700 islands and keys, how is it seen in the world as a habitat for so much great wealth? When you realize that we learn more about our country from the BBC and their specials, from Shark Week, we see more of our natural resources through the eyes of foreigners. And I think that revelation shows really why we don't have the policies necessary to protect it, because protect our natural resources, protect us from mining, protect us from being literally crapped on by the cruise ships, protecting us from poachers. We've seemingly, I mean, even though we are 47, is it 47 years old as an independent nation? I can't keep up anymore. I stopped counting at 45. I figure when I turn that age, I'll stop counting too. Actually, no, I lie. I stopped counting in my 30s, which I still am in, by the way, since nobody asked. But when
Can you
we,
remember that?
I can't remember.
Can't remember the 30s.
So when we look at who we are as a nation, right? I think where the things that we stand for are the things that are important to us, we protect. And Eric Carey, I think that you are an interesting Bahamas National Trust. I find is both loved and hated all at the same time. You people say that, listen, BNT is there to protect special lands, not all lands. That BNT isn't a great fighter when they should fight. We should be hearing more about the fight for our natural resources from the Bahamas National Trust, and not just the seemingly reactionary responses. When we look at what has happened now and what has happened with the ships then, when we talk about, plumes, black smoke, and the harbor going up in the air from cruise ships, or when we look at, all of the dumping in our seas, the United States takes them to court. The cruise industry, or those who are interested in the cruise industry, the cruise laws and policies, and I think, Captain Glenn, what do we call that? There's some laws that are just special for the cruise industry, right?
Yeah, we got the IMO have a lot of conventions.
That's it.
They have resolutions. They have circulars. The IMO, the International Maritime Organization,
that's it.
Yeah, they put out the law, and the Bahamas has ratified all of the SOLAS, all those SOLAS and MARPOL and the rest of those conventions that apply to situations like this, pollution prevention and safety on board ships and that type of thing. So yeah, they're very detailed, exorbitant laws. But like Eric said, we got to get to enforcement, and if I can touch upon that a little bit, tell you how we could be the ones to put them in court. But
listen, we're gonna get to, because here's my thing, because that's where I'm at this point, right? Mr. Carey, I was hoping that BNT would have already pimp slapped them with a lawsuit and sent them to court for the dumping. Let me ask that question: have we done anything? Have we gotten any of the monies or any, have we filed any suit against the cruise ships that were found guilty of dumping in our seas? And you could, of course, the United States got all of that money.
All right. So, I mean, there's several things. One, and I'll just respond to, it was the reason why I am so ecstatic that Ramon Ferreira, the Honorable, created the Department of Environment and Planning, that it helps us to get from under a huge misconception that Bahamians have. The Bahamas National Trust is not a regulatory agency. We are a strong advocacy agency, and we advocate a lot in meetings with government. We advocate for better land use planning, etc. But we're not the government regulatory agency. And so I think sometimes in the past, when things have happened and we haven't, quote unquote, done anything about it, the public have been understandably upset because they have an expectation that is not set based on what our mandate is. Having said that, we do advocate very strongly for things that we believe are egregious to the environment, and for things that government is minded to approve, we advocate for stringent development protocols. The trust is I would certainly agree, we are not an anti-development agency. We do not come out and say, don't do this or don't do that. We advise government based on the regulations that exist. Sometimes we are consulted for our view, and when we are, we give that view based on the information that we have available to us. But we believe in sustainable development. You started out talking about sustainable development. All of us, our lifestyles, we impact the environment, whether we drive a car or we live in a house or we work at a large hotel or a small hotel or we eat fish, whatever, we have an impact on the environment. What we have to do as a country is try to minimize that impact. And I think also, like we were talking earlier, a lot of Bahamians are not necessarily against mining, or salt production or oil production.
I agree.
What they are about is what you certainly have become probably the most prominent advocate of, is how do Bahamians share in the natural resources of our country. That was very interesting. I saw one aspect of a development proposed for North Andros, I guess, with some mining. I don't know the details of it, but
and there were three of them, by the way, just for the record, 3.
Yeah, one of them had something to do with local ownership, right? So, and a lot of local people called me. I mean, some obviously are very upset about it. They absolutely don't want it. But the ones that say, if it's going to go ahead, let's try and make sure that local Androsians are beneficiaries, whether that's a concept of the sovereign wealth fund at an island level, or whether it is Bahamians involved in ownership of these things. So, yeah, I mean, there's certain types of development which we shouldn't, I don't like to see in our country, but if government in its wisdom approves it based on economic benefits, jobs, etc., then our objective is to make sure that the impact is minimized on the environment. And I certainly support your view that the economic benefits should accrue to more Bahamians rather than to the few.
Exactly. And just for the record, my position will always be not just for the island stakeholders, but for the Bahamas, where when you find oil, when we find gold, whatever it is, that as citizens of this country, we are all stakeholders. So I, imagine now if Cat Island finds something that's more valuable, will only Cat Islanders get wealth? So I know, and I know you're not saying that, but I'm just saying as a model. When we talk about a sovereign wealth fund, the one that exists is garbage. So we need to fine tune and make it more and make it better, make it not even semi, make that thing so structurally structurally separated from the government, so politicians can't get their grubby hands on it and do what they did. I digress. He was getting upset just now thinking about messing with my money, and because I want everybody to get I want everybody to be blessed and wake up being proud to be Bahamian. Captain, you see where I was going off. I was going off on a tangent.
Yeah,
It's all right.
the views and opinions.
Shared by the host. Smart man, smart man. All right. Well, Captain Glenn, what do you think? What do you think on it in terms of us moving to this space where we have to be masters of our destiny in this country and not just passengers or bystanders when companies decide they want to do whatever they want to do here. I'm concerned with every cruise ship that has a private island because I know we're not enforcing that. I'm concerned with every landowner who owns a key because I know they're not being righteous with our where are they dumping their waste on the keys? How are they discarding their waste if they have a private island or private key? What is the standard for that? I always think these are things that we aren't doing to protect ourselves. So, Captain Glenn, what should we be doing to protect ourselves at this point?
But we should prepare. I mean, at the end of the day, the cruise ships are here. They're not doing any operations now, unfortunately, due to COVID. But at some point, they're going to be up and going again, and they're going to be operating. And how can we position ourselves to take advantage of these cruise ships that we don't have to pay to come here? They're bringing all these people. The cruise ships have private islands. We have Nassau Harbor. Now, we allowed the cruise ships without us even trying to do anything to come in and build docks. If you look at what Disney did at Castaway Key, they actually built a dock. That key used to be Gorda Key one time ago. It was drug tainted. They had an airstrip. But why is it that a Bahamian couldn't, or the government or somebody couldn't put something together and allow any cruise ship, not just Disney, to use that private island? What the government has not built one facility to accommodate cruise ships other than Nassau Harbor. If you go to Grand Turk, Carnival built a dock, just an abutment. I mean, you don't even need to dredge in some cases because we got the ocean going straight to the land in many of our islands. If the government was to put a dock, let's say Landrail Point, Crooked Island, for example, the government put an abutment there and any cruise ship could use it. Cruise ships in that area would be happy to have a place to go to that's already available to them. They can go and they can tie up to the dock. And I mean, Crooked Island, like every other island, has a lot of things to offer. That cruise ship, and you could pick any island in the Bahamas, and we can actually put a little abutment. We were talking earlier about providing or preparing moorings for cruise ships. We can prepare moorings. Those moorings can be utilized even after this COVID season is over. You put a mooring outside of Elizabeth Harbor, Georgetown, Exuma. You put that mooring just outside of Concord, just north of Conkey. You can have cruise ships from all over come to use that mooring. But what you, I, and Eric can do, we can form a company. We can create, we can build, we can get that mooring installed. We can buy tender vessels that are going to actually, once the cruise ship is moored, it tenders the people into the mainland and take them back on a half-hourly basis. Or that's what they do in Cayman Islands. That's what they do in most of the East Caribbean countries. These are things we can actually do. We don't need the government to do anything. Well, of course, the government can do a lot of things, but we sit back, the government wouldn't do this, the government wouldn't do that. We can put our heads together and do some things that can make the cruise ships attracted to wanting to use what we put in place.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I agree with you. I mean, that's, I've always thought about that. So again, the cruise ships are here, and Bahamians, sometimes forget that, cruise ships didn't just turn up in the Bahamas. Cruise ships have been a part of the tourism industry, I guess, from way back when they were called luxury liners, and they came from New York. And I don't know if that was in the 20s or whatever. And so, unlike a lot of the other Caribbean countries that just really started tourism, I mean, cruise tourism, I guess in our quote unquote defense, cruise tourism grew in the Bahamas. I think Glenn is pointing out some key missed opportunities, economic opportunities for Bahamians, whereby perhaps they should not have been allowed to operate the tenders. They should not be allowed to operate to more. Those should be owned by, the mooring should be owned by Bahamians. So, they go to the private islands, and really what is left there are 50, 60, 70 jobs for Bahamians, a couple of days a week, when indeed there should be, definitely should be more ownership. All of the food served should be served on the island by Bahamians, owned by Bahamians. All of the entertainment should be by Bahamians, etc. All of the tours should be by Bahamians, and not, what happens with the cruise industry. We know when Bahamian tour operators try and negotiate with the cruise ship, the tour costs $150, but the Bahamian tour company only gets 50 of that. 100 of that goes to the cruise lines. I think that's where and I don't know how it's negotiated. I'm not an expert in tourism, but somebody in the Ministry of Tourism knows how to negotiate, how these things are negotiated. And I think if we're going to continue to have cruise ships as a part of our economic mix, then we need to find ways that there's more that comes and accrues to Bahamians. And the same thing with respect to the natural resources that you keep talking about. And maybe some of this stuff, the use of our marine environment, whether it's by the cruise ships in this type of a way, or ships that anchor, that Glenn was talking about earlier, maybe these funds accrue into a sovereign wealth fund, so that Bahamians are benefiting, all of us, from the ocean that should belong to all of us.
Yeah, I have a few questions here. Says, great afternoon, lady and gentlemen. Question to Mr. Carey. Can you help me to understand what is considered our natural resources? I'm of the era where we did civics in school, and they taught us that we have no natural resources and we rely on tourism, banking, and fishing. Please edify my drought-ridden brain. Now, there's brilliant research in Nahaja talking about we have aragonite. Well, first of all, they said brilliant. This poor fellow. Well, you think she may be onto something?
So natural resources, obviously, she mentioned, the individual mentioned, the marine resources. We have a wealth of marine resources that have been pretty well managed from the point of view of setting up protected areas. The issues that we have, that the Bahamian fishermen will say, and I agree with them, is that a lot of the damage, the destruction of our marine resources, is not by Bahamians and not by our Bahamian fishermen. I honestly believe that if only Bahamian fishermen were fishing, and this is the commercial fishing, I think our natural resources, our fisheries resources, would be in a better state. But we've had the pillage and illegal poaching from the Dominicanos in the south. The fishermen decry. They believe that there has been a huge influx of Dominicanos and now integrated into the fishing system legally, because they now go out on Bahamian boats. They talk about
and American poachers as well.
Oh, the American poachers are also horrendous. I mean, they come in droves. I mean, if you fly in on a Friday afternoon out of Florida on a good clear weather day, I mean, it's like a highway, Glenn. You will see thousands. And now with these center consoles that can get to Bimini, they have five screws on them, 5 outboards, and they come to the Bahamas and they fish the entire weekend. So yes, if we were to limit the impact that the non-Bahamian fishing element has on our marine resources would probably be in a much better state. And I think, and see, this is the thing with Bahamian fishermen, they rile me a lot. There's some like Captain Adrian Cartwright and Keith Carroll.
They rile you a lot. Trust me.
But they are passionate about the fisheries and they understand conservation. And they say to me, Carey, we got to get rid of the poachers. If you all get rid of the poachers, we can work with you. And that is really important. They understand the principles of conservation. Captain Adrian Cartwright does not poach grouper. He don't catch grouper in the closed season. Okay, he catches grouper. He abides by the law. But he called me and riled me up and said, yeah, but Dominicans out there catching grouper now.
Yep.
So now the Defense Force, to their credit, and Keith Carroll, talks about this a lot. They have really done a much better job, Glenn, with the patrol. Since the Sandy Bottom project, that brought in a lot of those vessels, which included expanding the base in Inagua and the base in Ragged Island. Now there's more of a presence. Now we're investing in drones. So I think if we can blanket the southern Bahamas and really cut down the poaching in the southern Bahamas to minimal, and if we can then enforce the recreational fishing limits. So these boats that are coming from Florida, yes, come every weekend, but take your 6 fish, go by the bar in Bimini and drink, and then go back home. Don't go back with thousands of pounds of fish and count that you came over and caught in the weekend, because that is illegal. Let's outlaw that, and let's catch some of them.
Well, something else, but on the point of this, with regard to the aragonite,
sorry, I did not answer your question. I'm a bad guest. So yes, so you have things like aragonite, calcium carbonate. You have forests, which are part of our natural resources.
Most definitely.
Fish and soil. One thing I would like to challenge the great Nahaja Black, Glenn, to do for the country is to get a study commissioned. There's just too much uncertainty, and I'm in this space. I'm involved in natural resource management, but I honestly am not sure if the value of our aragonite is a couple of trillion that people talk about, or whether it's another figure. And we need to get. And Glenn, I know your view. I've heard your view. I think it is overestimated what we have, but we need to know as a country what the value of aragonite is, because we keep hearing these crazy numbers, and if those numbers are true, the national debt should be wiped out.
It should be wiped out. I actually agree with you there.
Marlon Johnson is one of the smartest people I know, okay? And I know if Marlon knew the FS, if he knew he could wipe out the national debt from aragonite, I'm sure Marlon would have advanced that. But I don't think any of us are sure, because we keep hearing this, and I'd love to hear Glenn's view on, what's the real value of aragonite versus calcium carbonate, so that we can then, as a country, make a determination, because then if you're going to exploit it as a country, you then know what the exploitable value is and what is a fair value to then go to the government and to the sovereign wealth fund. And
just for the record,
not sure what that is.
I'll tell you this. This is why I agree with you completely. That is very important, and why the former administration spent some of our good earned taxpayer dollars and had the University of Miami give us such a report. And it has been read. The report, when I saw it by the University of Miami, told of the amounts, gave the depth, gave the where these fields were, how much in terms of metric ton. And with that information, you go on the market. And you look at, when you go on the market, based on sustainable resources, then you go to a company that exists here in Grand Bahama that has been sitting in one spot for 33 years doing this one business. What are they mining? What is the market value? Why are they still there? What were we getting then? This is quick math, but if the information, Carey, was shared with the Bahamian people, I guarantee you the Bahamian people who were taxed and used our tax dollars to pay for this would gladly go ahead and use all of our brilliance, because all you need is the data, but you can't come up with the thousands of dollars that the University of Miami charged for this bit of information. Plus, Cuba did a gamma report for us in Mayaguana. Sorry, was it Mayaguana? Mayaguana, Ragged Island, about limestone, right? So Mayaguana, about the limestone there. So we have assessments, and I've asked personally those who are responsible for these documents. I've seen it with my own eyes, and Eric Carey, I've gotten bold-faced either lies or deflections. So, my brother, I'm going to work on it. I ain't going to stop now. Trust me. I won't stop. But I'll tell you, if it was so easy for us to get wealth out of this thing, we would be wealthy. Challenges that only a few want to keep it to themselves, but we digress, right? We digress. All right. So, let's talk about this now, Captain Glenn.
Yeah. we talk about natural resources. I mean, I've been around, I've been around the track a couple of times as a seaman. I know that we have sand as a natural resource. I think we export to some extent sand. I know we have, I've been to Morton many times. We have salt. And we talk about the aragonite. Now, aragonite, the first time I heard the word, I was on the Defense Force back in the early 80s. And my good friend James Wallace, I heard he just saw Glen Bain, there's aragonite. They get aragonite that make glass and make this. We would go to Ocean Key. The Makona Industries, I think, owned the key. And I know because we would go there for fuel. They would give us fuel. We would get water. We go to the commissary and get drunk sometimes if we, don't have to go on patrol. So I got to know the Makona industry just by virtue of doing business from a Defense Force, being a Defense Force officer. And after, what year was it? It was about 2003, 2004. After all those years from the early 80s, they actually sold Ocean Key. And they sold it to AES. And I know because AES hired my company to do security for 2 years on Ocean Key while they were cleaning it up. Because what AES wanted to do is bring in the gas, the gas that they would bring the ship in there. They would convert the gas they would freeze it. And by pipeline, they would send it from Ocean Key across to Florida. That didn't work out for some legislative reason, or Florida decided they didn't want it no more. I don't know what happened. But after 2-3 years, they sold the key. And when they sold the key, I understand that they sold it to some locals. And the locals wanted to start aragonite again. But I think we have more than one type of aragonite. We have the aragonite from the sea because they had dredges, they had tugboats to pull the dredges. They stockpiled it on the key. They had a very dock where the bulk carrier would come in and take the aragonite out. It was a very huge operation, very impressive operation. In my opinion, if they was making all this money from aragonite, why would you sell your key and stop your operation? That didn't make no sense, right?
Yeah.
Second operation, as you know, in Freeport, Bahama Rock. I don't know exactly what aragonite, Bahama, but
not aragonite. They don't do aragonite.
Calcium carbonate.
Calcium carbonate. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So my thing is, I don't know what kind of money you make, whether the one off the land where they dredge the hole and do the explosion and break up the rocks and crush them down and do what they want to do. But I remember as a little boy growing up, I grew up in South Beach and we always swam in the South Beach Canal. Now, when we swam in that canal, if you were a brave swimmer,
that's what I thought.
You would go to the bottom and you will bring up mud. So the bottom of the canal is very soft mud that you could actually rub on your skin like lotion. And I was told that that's the aragonite that costs a lot of money. But again,
theolytic sand,
this is all I know.
Well, the one that the calcium carbonate that is mined on land is different from the oolitic sand that comes out of the salt water naturally. Through that process, and you have these little round, perfectly round oolitic balls of sand. What I found out recently from my good friend Minister Ferreira, I honestly didn't know how long it took for that to form. Which presents a concern with respect to sustainability. Because we just assume you could just mine and mine and mine. And then what Minister Romy said on the floor of the House, and I have had a couple of geologists have confirmed that.
Confirmed it, yes.
It can take as long, of hundreds of years for it to settle out. So we have to be really careful with that knowledge. And I believe Romy, and I believe the Minister Romy, and I believe the scientists. It means then that we have to be very careful because it is not renewable in our lifetime. So when we look at areas, like East Grand Bahama and other areas where you have these massive deposits of oolitic sand, we need to know when we make that decision to mine that we are having an impact that goes long beyond the sustainability of any of our lifetime. And so and I go back and I will keep talking about the Department of Environment and Planning and and Rochelle, and I know she needs 100 more staff and more regulations. But that
Yeah.
department finally takes us into the 20th century.
Oh Lord.
Not even the 21st century, but it moves us towards 21st century legislation and environmental management, where now that department has the ability to have robust, modern legislative regimes that could effectively manage our environment. Now, it still comes down to political will. It still comes down to capacity and enforcement. But finally, for the first time ever in our history, the government, through what was advanced to the Ministry of the Environment, has really powerful, robust environmental legislation.
Yeah, no, that's important. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, last segment here with Eric Carey, the BNT Executive Director, and Captain Glen Bain. Captain Glen Bain, someone sent me a text, said you need to slow down. They're trying to take notes. Okay? They're trying to take notes on all of these business opportunities that you have been bringing up. And I want us on the other side of the break to talk about the environment and revenue. That is something where I think a lot of us are not realizing that to be closer to nature can make us a lot of money.
Blue economy. Blue economy.
That's it. All right. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. When we come back, more with Eric Carey, Captain Glen Bain, and myself. We'll be back right after this, live on Guardian 96.9 FM.
It's the beginning of the hurricane season, and Fidelity Bank is giving you one less thing to worry about. We're not able to control the storm or its path, but we can prepare for it as much as possible. With every debt consolidation loan, Fidelity is giving away fully loaded hurricane kits valued at $200 with all the hurricane essentials you'll need to weather the unexpected storms of life. It's that easy. Sign up for a debt consolidation loan, open an ACE savings or fixed deposit, and walk away with a free hurricane kit. At Fidelity, we're committed to helping you through these difficult times. Fidelity, we're good for you. Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And we're back. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. We've got Eric Carey, BNT Executive Director, as well as Captain Glen Bain, renowned maritime specialist. Right? You see how I love to do that, eh? Mr. Carey, I didn't even give you all of the extra sound bites. I have to make sure. Eric Carey, renowned activist. Yes. So that's good. Yep. You know, we got a hashtag extra. You know, I put it on, lay it thick. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you on the show again, because we are talking about sustainable development. How important is it that we progress whilst embracing the environment, working with the environment, being good stewards of the environment, not being bullied by multinational corporations, not losing pristine beaches to cruise ships, by the way, still obsessed, all up in my feelings about that whole lighthouse beach thingy and Disney. I still vex in my spirit, Mr. Carey. You're supposed to throw 400 people on the beaches, and we're supposed to lay down there and never move. What happened, man? Mr. Carey, I gonna work with you. You know, I can work with you. I'm gonna work with you.
Absolutely, yeah. My team like you.
Captain Bain, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna bring all of our boats. Yeah, we're gonna get all the Bahamians to line their boats up, and we're gonna tell that big ship, you know, you take it to go back where you come from, be like our lighthouse. But we digress.
We like
All right, let's talk about. Sorry, go ahead, Captain Bain.
Yeah, we want to also realize, Nahaja, that Lighthouse Point is one of many. There's a little place called Conception Island.
Oh yes, I've heard of that.
Let me tell you, man, that has the best beach I've been on in the Bahamas, and I've been on all the beaches.
Unfortunately, that is a national park. Fortunately,
It's a national park.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
But also
good.
From Reef North, the reef is about 1.5 to 2 miles long.
Mhm.
The beach is breathtaking. We always anchored there on the defense force.
Right.
The defense force is supposed to drop, right? But we anchored there all the time, and we waiting before we go to do our patrol in that area. And that island is more beautiful than Castaway Key, in my opinion, far more beautiful than Half Moon Key and all the other keys, Stirrup Key, Cocoa Key. I think sooner or later we may hear that the cruise ship is buying that.
No, man.
No. Conception Island is a
if they're not-
national park. That is one of our 32 national parks. There will never be a cruise ship port there. But you asked about
they visit?
opportunities. No. So you sometimes have what people call cruise ships. You may have very large yachts with 60, 70, 80 people on them. Sometimes they do visit some of our parks, etc. Right? They visit. They don't stay there for the day or and they leave. But there will never be a cruise port. Never be a need to dredge in those areas, etc. But those are the types of areas where we talk about. Well, first off, how do Bahamians make money off the environment? We make a lot of money off the environment. Tourism, we are successful as a tourism economy because of the fact that we have a beautiful environment and an intact environment. People come here and they dive at Stuart Coves, or they go to Atlantis, or they go to Bahamas, because we have a beautiful environment. So the environment is already a big part of our tourism stake. But you could, if you, I don't know if you how many of the islands you've been to in Nahaja, but any of those islands, you could create so many opportunities for Bahamians to have small lodges, eco lodges, fishing lodges, and they can be done with low capital intensiveness. And you can have some that are 2-star, 3-star, 5-star. You can have whether they're centered around bone fishing or just wilderness areas, and you can have literally hundreds of Bahamians becoming fairly economically independent by this industry. Can you what's happened with COVID is that people have wanted to get to places that have few people. And if we had so many more of our islands with these types of small resorts, they would have been booming like crazy. They would have been making, when you talk about vacation in place, we would have had 100 of these places throughout the economy, throughout the country. So that type of small resort development, and that what's important, Bahamians can own every flipping one. That's important.
I love this. I love that. Yeah, I'm with you. The way you said it too, I loved it. It was good. Way to deliver that line. That was very good, Eric Carey. That was good. I believed it too. Captain Bain, how do we make money from our environment? Because I agree with that. The model that Eric Carey is mentioning, that's the model I'm in. That's the model I'm working toward. That's the model that I view as my business model. But then there are other models. Oh my God. Give me some other options.
I'd say every island in the Bahamas has its unique callings, its unique beauty. You get some islands with a lot of blue holes. You get some islands with fauna and that type of thing that other islands don't have. If we can set up tours on these islands, because we have cruise ships now coming to them because we've made provisions for these cruise ships to come there.
With these moorings.
Private entity. Well, we make it put docks. And some of them we can actually put a slip, just like they do in the Eastern Caribbean and down in Grand Turk. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, we can actually bring one ship to an island, ships carry anywhere between 2,500 to nowadays 6,500 passengers.
Yeah.
Right. So you talking about? I remember I was in Eastern Caribbean some years ago, and I think it was Anguilla. There's one of those small countries. Well, it's not only an island because the entire Bahamas is we take up almost the same space as the entire Eastern Caribbean. So each of our islands could really be one of those countries.
Right.
In fact, our islands are bigger than most of those countries. And we find that they had a cruise ship that come there once a week. And, they had carnival every time the cruise ship came because it was so much activity, so much money that's going to be generated from the passengers of that ship that they just made it a big thing. Nobody probably even slept that night. But, if we can get the cruise ships to go to our islands, we can get people to leave Nassau and go back to the islands because now they got things to do.
Yes.
You have so much going on when a cruise ship pulls in.
I am not in step. I'm not in step with Glenn here. I don't want to see cruise ships in Cat Island, Long Island, Inago.
I was wondering about that environmental side.
I would.
Is it a problem in Eastern Caribbean?
I think if there's something we should do about the cruise ships, I think we should determine where we don't want cruise ships. As far as I'm concerned, I think we should make a determination that we should probably not have cruise ships going into areas that are, still pristine and they are here. Let's maximize local economies from that. The thing if I don't say this, my staff will probably shoot me. But we're trying to create opportunities around national parks. So getting to set up tours. Like right now, people pass through the oldest land and sea park in the world, Exuma Park, and they take people on tours to see farm animals, okay? To swim with these pigs, okay?
Yes.
And it's amazing because I've seen some of the people stop. There was one company which used to stop in the park. What's Jerome Fitzgerald's company? I forget what it's called. But when you talk to those people, they are so happy. Yeah, they went to see the pigs and they were okay, but they stopped in paradise and they saw this incredible beauty of this phenomenal national park. So one of the things we are hoping to do with the Ministry of Tourism, and we're getting very good traction with Crystal Battle from the Ministry of Tourism and Taran Sims from the Ministry of Tourism and some of the people in marketing and communications in the Ministry of Tourism, is to market our national parks as places that people should come and visit. It is an undervalued resource because you do that, it is Bahamians who will benefit because we will make sure that any concessions in national parks are owned and run by Bahamians. If there are small eco lodges in a national park, that is going to be owned by a Bahamian and run by a Bahamian. And if you have an eco lodge within a national park, you could automatically increase your nightly charge by a certain percentage. I don't know what that is because a person is in a national park.
Let me ask.
So we need to do things like that.
Let me ask you something. I wanted before because it just came to mind. Eric Carey, BNT Executive Director, and then of course Captain Glen Bain joining me on the Hit Back live at Guardian 96.9 FM every day 4 to 6 p.m. and of course streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Mr. Carey, I have a question for you. We know that there is a proposal on the table for a cruise ship company to be on Paradise Island. They want to be by the next lighthouse estate place, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was told that they got a lot of sea turtles that come up to the beaches there, and that is really a sanctuary for a lot of sea turtles. They lay their eggs, et cetera, et cetera. Has BNT gone and checked that site to see what sort of habitat it is, what issues environmentally can be presented there? Because I'm listening to you saying, listen, we don't want cruise ships all over the place. We want them to be in certain well-managed places. I feel like going over to creating another one and just a few miles away on another island is also a challenge.
I think the Paradise Island cruise ship lighthouse thing is publicly debated. I've had a lot of discussions with Toby Smith, who has apparently put in a proposal to government to create a Bahamian own experience. And then I heard in the news that the government was considering giving that a part of what Toby was after to the cruise line. So there's a socioeconomic thing going on there. Whether should it be owned by Bahamians or the cruise line? That's one aspect. From the point of view of the environmental components, we have not looked at it, but that is something that we would, and I'm not trying to deflect, but that's really not our responsibility. I would send that to the Department of Environment Planning or the Department of Marine Resources. If they asked us to assist, we would lend staff, but that is the responsibility of the government agencies to determine whether an area like that, because it's not inside a national park, so we would not have a direct
understood
input, but it really should be looked at wherever we're going to consider these types of developments. And if we find that it has too much of an impact on the environment, that should determine whether or not a project goes forward or whether it needs to be scaled down.
Captain Glenn, when you look at a cruise ship going there, you look at cruise ships anywhere, and I'm thinking about the footprint and the impact, dredging to the bottom of anywhere.
Well, they won't be
the cruise ship actually,
they're just taking passengers from.
It would be
they're creating a private island in Nassau.
So we don't dredge for them to have docking? No.
No, they're going to be at Nassau Harbor where they go now.
Okay.
They're just going to tender their people over there.
Well, no, that's a big development.
We're creating a private island in Nassau Harbor. That is the concept, the private cruise island. And
for God's sake, they need another private island. That's even worse.
People, I've been asked to comment on it. It's a socio-economic issue, not an environmental issue.
Okay. Yes,
those
all
are
right.
the type of things. When we talk about how Bahamians can benefit from the environment, who is going to benefit more there? Someone should make a determination of that, and determine whether or not that space is better used if owned and operated by Bahamians, or if owned and operated by a company owned
that
by
ships all the money somewhere else.
Those are the.
We already know the answer, though, guys. We know the answer. It really is just a debate for folks who just want to act like they don't know the answer. We know the answer.
Yeah, Eric, you mentioned. I know we're running out of time now, so let me just be real quick. You mentioned, Eric, that the Land and Sea Park. We want to show that off a little more. And I fully agree with you. I have a good friend that lives in Staniel Key, Wade Nixon, that does tours.
Yeah, I know Wade. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can have about 10 Wades. All you need
easily
is a cruise ship to have a mooring on the eastern side of Staniel Key.
Damn cruise ship.
Now you got 100.
You don't need cruise ship. See, but it's not about.
They're gonna see this. They're gonna see the pigs swimming.
It's not about volume.
They got 10 Wade Nixons taking them to do.
No, but you don't need them. Flamingo Air flies. Flamingo Air has sometimes 4 flights a day out of Nassau, and there's another airline flying people in, right?
We keep them
to see these farm animals, right?
Right.
But you also have people like Nick Pinder, and a couple other guys, Lee McCoy and others who have these. These are Bahamians that own boats that run from here.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to put a cruise ship there. They can take people from the cruise ships here, as well as take people from the hotels. And also, very importantly, is we need to get more Bahamians experiencing. When we did something called the Poker Run, done by Jordan Lampkin and a couple other people, and we got Bahamians into the Land and Sea Park, it's the proudest I've ever been to see so many Bahamians understanding, enjoying what only the uber wealthy on our planet get to enjoy in places like the Exuma Park. But it is quite possible. It ain't that far to get to if you own a boat, a 23, 20 footer.
So I guess we are doing so. I'm thinking. I was just thinking to myself, I've never seen any of these places that you guys have talked about. Conception Island. Well, I've swam with the pigs. For the record, I will never do that again. That's pretty gross. Yeah, I don't get it. It's nothing. Yeah, the water is beautiful though.
There's too much other natural beauty that to me, honestly, as a naturalist, I am so offended, when I've been in places like New York or elsewhere, and I go in the subway and I see, I've seen it in town, in Times Square. I've seen the Bahamas and pigs, and I felt like this cannot be sustained as the natural attraction. When we have turtles, iguanas, sharks, coral reefs, flamingos, roseate spoonbills, why are we promoting farm
Yeah.
animals?
And which is so funny. The key right next to that is filled with iguanas.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Beautiful. So,
I'm telling you. Look, we have to go, gentlemen.
yeah.
I gather we have to continue the conversation. The one on natural resources is a big one. It's constant, and we need to be desensitized, not desensitized to the conversation, but rather find ourselves very much involved and awake with getting this done. Captain Glen Bain and Eric Carey, BNT Executive Director. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for the time.
Thank
the
you. It's been a
virtual
pleasure.
space.
It's
Yes.
been a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll do it again for sure.
Absolutely, we will. Thank you.
All right. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, everyone. Enjoy your day. Enjoy yourself. Be safe. We will see you all tomorrow. You're listening to the Hit Back on Guardian 96.9 FM.